Listen, for the longest time, me and my wife could not keep our video podcast on a weekly schedule. And it had nothing to do with the show itself. We'd record, the conversation would be brilliant, we would wrap up feeling good about it, and then post-production would just eat the entire week. Copy the files and SSD, load up Resolve, sync every camera, sync every mic, make the cuts, color, tweak the audio, usually mess it up the first time, do it again. Then somewhere in all of that, find a window to actually publish. And bear in mind, it's just two of us doing this. People assume there is a team. There is no team, it's just us. Then Rode came through with two pieces of gear that quietly changed everything. The RØDECaster Pro II and the new RØDECaster Video Core. And the same episode that used to take us about 4 days, even sometimes 5, now takes us 1. So if you've been struggling to keep your own podcast on a weekly schedule, or you're an audio podcaster trying to figure out how to add video without burning out, stick with me because I'm going to show you the exact setup. The one moment it saved us from losing an entire episode, and the one workflow problem I'm still asking the community to help me out. I'm your filmmaker. I review gear that actually works on location and in real production. And what you're about to see is the exact Rode setup we used to record the 91 podcast, which my wife hosts just behind me. I'm going to walk you through every piece of gear and tell you what it actually does for the show. I'll be honest about what I changed. Rode sent me all of this to review and no money change hands. So you're getting the real version, not the polished one. The setup is 2 people on camera most of the time, 3 camera angles and 2 microphones. I've done 4 camera angles and I run all the technical side from another room because we have 2 young boys who need somebody watching them while my wife records. By the end of this video, you know whether this setup is right for you, what it costs you in setup time, what it gives back in editing time, and whether the new RØDECaster Video Core is the piece you've been waiting for or the piece you can skip. Let's get into it. At the heart of the audio is the RØDECaster Pro II, and I have my Sennheiser MKH416 running XLR cable into the RØDECaster Pro II just on the right outer frame, and that's feeding audio back into the camera. 2 Rode pod mics on stands with pop filters going in over XLR cables, and there's also a pair of NTH100 headphones sitting, and I'm telling you, these are the best headphones I've used in a long time. We'll come back to this. For the picture, 3 cameras, the Lumix S5 2X on the wide, the S1R2 on my wife the host, the S1 II on the guest, all 3 feeding over HDMI into the RØDECaster Video Core, which is also just beside the RØDECaster Pro II. The Pro II connects to the core over USB-C. Then, depending on whether RØDECaster Sync is on, which I'll explain in a few minutes, the audio either leaves on the core's SSD or on both devices independently. Either way, the core records all 3 video angles plus audio to the SSD. Everything pulls into a Mac Studio for finishing in DaVinci Resolve. Now, every piece of gear in this video is linked in the description with affiliate links. They cost you nothing extra and they help me keep doing reviews like this. But stick with me because I'm not just going to list the gear, I'm going to tell you what each one earns its spot for and what I'll change about it if I could. Alright, look, I'm not an audio engineer, never have I been, never going to be. So when we started the 91 podcast a few years back, about 3 years, every time I sat down to edit, audio was the thing I was always trying to fix and I hated it. We were using a different brand of mics back then and the sound was fine. It was just fine, not what I wanted. I had to go and buy a third-party pop filter just to try and tame the plosives coming from the mic, and I'll still end up in DaVinci Resolve audio page tinkering for ages just trying to figure out how to make the sound more professional. Now with pod mics into the Pro II over Rode's own XLR cables, effects turned on, it sounds warm, rich, broadcast-like, and it takes me a fraction of the time it used to. Effects is really the secret here with compressor on, equalizer on, the SI on, even the exciter on, pretty much everything else from the Pro II except the noise gate, which I've turned off. And the reason for that is that when I had it on initially, I noticed that when guests lean away from the mic, it treats the audio as noise sometimes and even cuts them off. So I turned it off, and that's actually where the NTH100s come in, because everyone wearing them gets to hear in real time whether they're close enough to their mic or drifting away from it. And the whole point of this for someone like me is I just press one button on the RØDECaster Pro II and the audio is good. Press one button, it sounds like a podcast. I don't need to know what a compressor is doing under the hood to get a result that sounds professional. We also have guests sometimes who join from another country. They're coming over Zoom or a different platform on the Mac. The Pro II routes that through its USB chat channel with automatic mix minor, so there's no echo and they sound like they're in a room with us. There's also a Bluetooth call-in feature for actual phone callers. We haven't used that one yet, but it's a feature we plan to introduce in the future when we start going live, which we actually do plan to do. Now, is the Pro II perfect? The answer is no. I'll be honest. It's not cheap compared to a basic 2-channel interface, which Rode also have, so I could also recommend that, but it replaces a mixer, a recorder, an audio processor, a sound card or a soundboard, and a remote call interface all in one box. So if you're recording solo into USB mic, this is overkill, but if you're running real episodes with a guest and you don't want to learn audio engineering like me, this is the one to buy. And since we're planning to have more than one guest on the show in some episodes, the extra channels are definitely going to come in handy, as well as those parts which let you load up sound effects like and play some music or some applause, or one of those silly things a lot of streamers do. So it's amazing to have all those things in one package. Now, this is the part of the video I really want you to pay attention to, because the new RØDECaster Video Core is the piece that makes this whole setup possible for us. I want to tell you why it's in our setup instead of the one of the other switches on the market. This is essentially a stripped down version of the RØDECaster Video S. So as you can see, there's no physical buttons at the top, but it does have an extra USB-C port at the front, and it takes 3 HDMI feeds, records every angle plus audio to an SSD and even a 4th angle via USB-C, and it exports an EDF file when you're done, which is a huge deal for editing. I'll get to that. And before this setup, I was using a switcher from another brand with a wireless transmitter connected to the output just to view all 3 cameras, and I have to do all the cuts after the shoot was over, which added hours. And then on top of that, there were times the wireless signal would drop or the transmitter batteries would die mid-recording. So compared to that workflow, the core itself is on a different level. Alright, but the moment that really sold me on it happened a few weeks in. We were recording a long form episode over 2 hours. The kind of conversation where if you ask the guest to come back and re-record, they will quietly never speak to you again. And the worst part, the guest was joining remotely from another country. I was running the Pro II and the Core in parallel, both recording audio independently. We wrapped up, my wife unplugged, I came downstairs to ingest, and the Pro II was showing me that the memory on the micro SD card was filled up. At that time, I hadn't yet had the Pro II on connected via USB-C to the Mac Studio, so I couldn't see in the RØDECaster app if or when the memory stick was filled. My wife didn't know, I didn't know. I'm sitting there thinking we just lost 2 hours of audio, but the core had been recording the entire time. Every audio channel, even from the Pro II, embedded straight into the SSD. Untouched, we didn't have to reshoot. No one had to know. Some emotions you just can't replace, you can't just reshoot. That's the case for redundancy in one story. You don't think about it until the day you actually need it. And that one moment by itself was worth the cost of the core for me. Now, there's one feature I want to talk about that completely changed how I work after the experience, but it also asks you to give something up, and that's what being honest about. It's called the RØDECaster Sync. All you do is connect a USB-C cable from the USB 1 on the Pro II to the audio port on the core. Now you can connect it to either the front one, which is USB 5, or the one called USB 4 at the back of the core. A pop-up appears on the Pro II asking you to confirm, and once you do, the 2 devices start talking to each other. A few things happen when sync is on. The Pro II essentially becomes a controller for the core. The smart parts of the Pro II turn into camera switches for cameras 1 to 4, but only across scenes A and B. You still keep your sound effects when you switch to the other pages like you saw me do. You can still process the audio coming in through the 3 connected cameras over HDMI, and if you use USB 4 to a camera, and a RØDECaster app on the Mac. The Pro II's audio shows up as input. You can mix directly inside the core's audio mixer section. But here's the trade-off, and you have to know this before you turn it on. When Sync is active, the Pro II stops independently recording to its micro SD card. All the audio leaves on the core's SSD. So that whole redundancy story I just told you about, the 2 parallel recordings that save the episode, that doesn't exist anymore once Sync is on. So why am I using Sync now? Because after that incident, I actually thought about it the other way around. I'd rather record everything to one unit where I can monitor exactly how much space and time is left on the SSD in real time. And speaking of remote monitoring, that is the part that for me makes this whole setup actually possible. The core has no Wi-Fi, so it's hardwired into my home network using a LAN cable. The Pro II does have Wi-Fi, but the RØDECaster app does not allow you to see and control the Pro II over LAN or Wi-Fi, except you have the Pro II connected via USB-C on USB 1. It only controls the video core, video S, and video, which means I can't adjust audio levels remotely. For any audio adjustment, I have to do that physically if it would make any sense since there are feathers on it. But thanks to the core, I can be on my laptop in another room, see all 3 video feeds, switch cameras live, switch scenes, watch and adjust audio levels, and I'm cutting cameras live while it's happening. By the time my wife is done with the session, the Multicam edit is essentially done. Now, one thing I should be straight about is that I haven't yet figured out how to get audio out of the core remotely through the RØDECaster app. So what I do is I run a wireless video transmitter out of the core to a separate screen, which I receive upstairs, and I can hear the audio. That's how I'm actually hearing the audio or the show in real time. So I'm watching the live mix with audio on one screen, and I'm cutting cameras and watching feeds on the laptop. If anyone in the comments has figured out a way to get audio over through the RØDECaster app, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be very grateful, and I'll pin your comments. And now the reason I need to be in another room in the first place is what we call the cavalry. Our 2 young boys. I have to watch them while my wife records. They didn't get it at first, but now as they're growing up and getting older, they're getting to understand that mommy needs some time off to do her stuff. And because I can hear and see the whole thing in real time, I always know when she's wrapped up a thought and when she needs my attention. There was one time in recording when one of the tube lights, the one directly behind me here, the one behind the guest went out because I'd forgotten to plug it into power, and for the laptop I could see it happen and ran downstairs to sort it out. So no hand signals, no funny hand signals, no tally lights, no yelling for me to come downstairs. System just works, and that's the part that turns this from a nice idea into a sustainable weekly show. Now, this is a chapter that ties back to everything I told you at the start of this video. Editing used to take us about 3 to 4, 5 days, coloring, audio, graphics, titles, reviewing the video, corrections, and with me overseeing the cavalry plus running this YouTube channel, it would always stretch. Now, the core exports an EDL file with all our live cuts already on it. Even with the scene cuts, I drop into Resolve and the Multicam is aligned, and I can adjust them if I need to. From there, it's color, tweak on audio levels, the highlight intro, the music, the lower thirds. We're done. My wife actually does a lot of this with me. I taught her the Multicam edit. She does the first pass while I come in for the finishing touches, and then I'll upscale to 4K and upload to YouTube. This whole process now takes about a day or 2, down from 4, and that is the difference between this being a sustainable project to being a quiet one that will just stop. Now, I'm not going to pretend this setup is flawless and we don't encounter any issues. I've got 4 real things I would like to change, and one of them I genuinely need your help with, so don't skip this section. 1, the NTH100 headphone cables aren't long enough from where we had the RØDECaster Pro II to the guest. That's actually why we're not using them on the show yet. If you've gone to check the show, the cable can't reach from where the Pro II sits over to where my wife and the guests are sitting. So for now, we're not using them until I get proper extension cables. But I'll tell you straight up, when I've worn the NTH100s, like I earlier said, they're the best sounding headphones I've put on in a very, very long time. I'm not even kidding. They're going to use the moment those longer cables arrive. And Rode, if you're listening, please make a longer cable version or some kind of extension for those cables for setup like ours. Now, number 2 is about the port mics, which you can see just behind me there. The port mic's XLR connector exists just at the bottom or at the back of the port mic. So compared to the standard broadcast dynamic mic everyone knows, SM7B type, where the cable tucks just on the handle, it kind of shows up in frame, which is something I always notice. And small things, but as filmmakers, that's the kind of thing we pick out with our eyes. Now, number 3 is about the Core Pro II and the RØDECaster app. The Core has no Wi-Fi, but a LAN port as well as the Pro II. But then again, you can't control the Pro II in the RØDECaster app or any of the RØDECaster video switchers on like an iPad. So this is an opportunity that Rode can make an iPad OS version of the RØDECaster app and make the Pro II to be remotely controllable as well. Although such a system doesn't exist yet, if it ever does, this setup will become untouchable. And here's why all of this matters even more in the next couple of months. Rode just announced something at NAB called the RØDECaster Studio. It's a desktop app for Mac and Windows. The editing is AI driven, so you can use natural language. You type remove the arms, it removes them. You type the host set this wrong name at 1423, replace it with this, and it replaces it in the host actual voice. That would be crazy. And there's the one-click export settings for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and it generates subtitles, which is massive. Early access is supposed to be out this month of May 2026, and hopefully I'll get a chance to test it for you guys. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that, because if today my day takes about a day or two, this probably will bring it down to just a few hours. So who is this setup actually for? If you're an audio podcaster thinking about adding video, the Core is the missing piece you've been waiting for. And the EDL workflow, hopefully extra in the future, alone will save you time. If you're already running the podcast and you're tired of post-production burning you out, this is probably your ideal setup. 4 days becomes one, and you can keep your weekly schedule without losing your weekends. And if you're a creator with kids like me, trying to figure out how to keep doing this without choosing between your work and being present for your family, this is what's actually working in our house. Affiliate links to every piece of gear are down in the description below. They cost you nothing extra, and they support reviews like this one. Now, a few things before you go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because hopefully I'll have the RØDECaster Studio breakdown coming next month. I don't want to miss it. And go watch and listen to the 91 podcast at 91 Productions UK on YouTube, because my wife is the real talent in this house. If you want to see how the Core compares to his bigger brother with the physical buttons, my full RØDECaster Video review is also in the description below. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know your thoughts. It's a filmmaker. See you in the next one. God bless and peace.